Hey guys, welcome back. Carter Bitsby tripping. Long full day today. Trying to get some stuff done. It was a lot of just like admin day today, so it wasn't a lot of cool stuff to kind of go through with you guys on like YouTube or a tutorial or anything like that. It was just legitimately like heads down, emails, going through a few meetings, that kind of stuff. Now I'm headed to a city council meeting, and we're gonna go through essentially Bitcoin mining. I only got 20 minutes to kind of go through it with people. And sorry, I just got done trying to stuff my face, eat something before I go to this. It's 6 o'clock right now. I'm gonna hopefully be able to bring my camera in. It's back here in the back. You guys can see it there, laying the tripod. I'm headed there now, and we're gonna talk through a new potential build. We have a 5 megawatt location. The power company we use for a few of the other sites has essentially green lighted us on their side, and it is now time for us to go talk to the local city that this will be in. The zoning is correct, the permitting is what we're going to be kind of shooting for here with the city council, and just they have some basic questions on Bitcoin mining, and there's a lot of let's just say less than ideal information out there in this space when it comes to like communities, if they try to do some outreach or try to figure out like what's the positives for the community and Bitcoin mining in general, what's the negatives, and then kind of go through from a noise, a sound, a visual ordinance standpoint. The zoning that we're going to be in is good for all that. It's an industrial area. It's got factories and stuff in it, so I mean we should be fine there, but it's good to help educate. This is a new space for some people, especially here in the Midwest, so let's cut over and see what we can help answer some questions, my dudes. Hang in. Hello everybody, I'm Michael Carter. I'm with BBT. It's Bitsby Trippin'. It's a funny name, I know. We've been around for quite a long time. One of the open spots that's over there, we've been going back and forth just with opportunity there, and wanted to bring it to the council, let you all know what it is and how does it work and how does it function, and answer any questions. I know if you do any Google searching on Bitcoin mining, you might find like some folks having issues with like sound and ordinance and all that kind of stuff, so we're going to kind of cover a lot of that. I'll show you some of the sites we have. We'd be happy to take anybody out to any of the local sites. You can like walk through it, see what it's all about, that kind of thing. But it's just, we have a pretty good working relationship with Southwestern Electric. We were able to establish a very competitive 3-phase power rate with Southwestern Electric, and it's just now proliferating. We're also looking with Ameren, Illinois, actually getting some good energy right here, actually turning on some of those windmills up and down 55. If you drive and see them turned off, it's because there's just not the demand post-COVID. So we're trying to get them turned on. I'll get into the positive of why it's positive for the community in the area, but we'll kind of go through them jumping ahead here. So this is us up here. So the total 4 FTEs just here in the area, and then we have a few other sites remote from here, and then some joint ventures with our joint ventures. It's a total of over 20 people working full-time, and a few other states. We have a place in North Carolina, Nebraska, South Dakota, Illinois, Wisconsin. So we're kind of spread out across the country right now on stuff, and we're a registered EIN, we have a cage and a DUNS number, we can work for the federal government, we're registered for all that stuff too. Found Bitcoin back in 2010 when it was first dropped, and by 2013 felt comfortable enough to make a YouTube channel out there and teach people how to do it. We do everything is observe and report. I'm not telling you it's the way to do it, I'm telling you here's how we're doing it, and just kind of sharing that with everybody. And it's just our journey through this. So between our joint ventures and us, we have a total of 96 megawatts across the country operational, which is quite a bit of power. In this area, we're the single largest user of power from Southwestern Electric from a consumption standpoint. We use more power than anybody in Southwestern's territory now. Some of the build aspects from a construction, and these are fully done projects. They get submitted engineering drawings, they go to the counties, we have to submit, you know, official engineering drawings on the civil side, the electric side. These are typically next to the substations and involve the power company in some capacity, right, because they have to have the NEC approvals. These are, you know, the containers that we use for this, and some of the other sites are actually buildings, like we put the stuff in a building, and so that might be an opportunity here too, we talk about this area. But so it's a lot of power related stuff, anywhere from 700 kVA, which is 750,000 watts, to 5 megawatts in the Southwest territory right now. Southwestern Electric has a 5 megawatt limit, and then they have first right of refusal to Ameren. Southwest has the better power rates right now. I'm trying to work with Ameren to get better power rates, but it's a process, to say the least. We're down to 4.1 cent all in, which is the continuous power load, which is very cheap for the amount of power that we use. Go through here. From an engineering aspect, I put a couple of these notional drawings up here. I'm happy to share the actual engineering drawings with anybody that's interested to see kind of the details that we have to get into, but it covers setbacks, it covers where the actual power lines and everything are going to go. Everything's ran usually in the ground, nothing overhead. Transmission, the power company handles on the primary side, secondary sides we take to the buildings or to the facility. And when I say we work with the local companies around here. So those are the folks that are the certified electricians that we use. We don't harbor our own like electricians, we just leverage on the civ side, same thing with the gravel, same thing with just the site build up, fence. We use the local communities for that. So we throw it out there with everybody, bid process, and then we go back to the customers that we're either working with or our joint ventures, and we make a choice there. So we are trying to use the local you know, folks, not bring folks from out of town or anything like that. So it does bring them work. But we work through, we have COIs, we have our insurance through Berkshire Hathaway. We're covered on all the stuff that we do there. Everything's licensed. And then with the sites that we have here are air driven, and we'll get into some more details here, but there are 3 different types of way to mine Bitcoin right now. And some of them are air driven, which is just like big fans that cool it. Then there's water cooling, which uses 3-phase water, essentially water towers that are about 14 foot tall, and it just uses cooling. If you have a home computer or a kid with a home computer, it has like a water cooler on it that works the same kind of way. It's just a thermal transfer, and it just chills it that way. It brings the audible sound down quite a bit on those kinds of setups. And then there's immersion cooling, where we actually sink the machines into liquid immersion. It's a dielectric fluid. This is an example. It's literally on the substation with Southwestern Electric. So we just extended essentially the substation and the ground grid, and then put 4 40-foot containers there. We keep them very clean. We paint them yearly. We make sure it looks nice. Part of the documentation we sent over, we actually did a sound survey there. Really didn't need to, but we're just doing our own due diligence on a 5 meg site, and wanted to have that for anything that we do come. We would at least have some telemetry on what a sound survey looks like. So we had a sound engineer. We provided that documentation. I don't know if you'd be able to send it over, but it's a pretty comprehensive report of like where to put these microphones all over, just to kind of give you an idea. When you're next to the machines, if you're right next to it, it's 90 decibels, so it's pretty loud. If you step away about 100 feet, and you'll see it on that sound report, it drops to about 53, which next to 5570 is actually louder. But it's still one of those things we're trying to be conscious, and we don't want anybody not wanting this, right? We're trying to, you know, be good stewards to it. So the areas that we choose are areas that are already industrial, already have, you know, other sounds that are happening, and then that sort of thing. And then if it is from a look and a feel that it doesn't, we don't want containers, then, you know, the building is be the next solution, right? Doing a full building. It's just when you start doing buildings, you go from this, which is considered essentially a network closet that's sitting on gravel. You know, nobody stays in it, nobody wants to be in it, but like if you're just kind of in it to let it do its thing and then leave. In a building, then there's a lot more code to buildings, right? We have the, you know, bathroom. There'll probably be people, once you commit to a building, you're probably putting a workshop in it and other things. So we're just trying to consider that for clients that want to build. 5 megawatts is a pretty decent sized location. To give you an idea, this site, as an example, was about $4.5 million to build. So the miners themselves, the machines that actually do the computational work, it really goes with Bitcoin's price, but when Bitcoin goes way, way up in price, these machines can be up to $12,000 a piece at one point. Right now they're about $1,200. So they're about 10x drop. So sites can ebb and flow, but containers, civil construction, all that just goes with whatever everything else is, you know, from an inflation standpoint. The average bill on a 5 meg site is about $133,000. It's about $7,000 in taxes per month per 5 megawatt site. It does go up exponentially as we start to get up in the megawatt range. One of the open questions we have with Ameren right now is we're trying to solicit for a 50 megawatt site, which is orders of magnitude large, about $150 million investment. We're just seeing if it's feasible. They have the power there, but they don't. That's a much larger investment.
Can I just pause you for
yeah.
a second, because I do have a question, and I'll forget to come back to it if I don't ask it.
Yeah,
I don't want to lose your flow.
Yeah.
But when you talked about the taxes of $7,000 a month, are you talking about the taxes on your electric bill? Is that
On the electric right now.
So do those taxes come to the city?
We get a part of state sales tax.
We do?
get a percentage of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, I mean, if that was going there, there
What I'm
isn't.
trying to understand, Mr. Carter, is what is the benefit to the city in allowing you to do this? How, like, if you're not selling anything or you're not employing any employees, it's just a standalone building?
Well, it would be employee. This would increase at least one FTE, the 5 megawatt location at a minimum. The client that actually is on the live stream right now would also be looking to bring some folks here too. So there would be employees that would be gained in the area, and then all of the construction aspect, any kind of improvements and updates on it would also be sourced locally.
Okay.
It is, you know, from a rev share. I mean, we've talked to Southwestern about doing maybe like a rev share type of situation, but just the margins are pretty tight on Bitcoin right now, so it's. I think that'd be out, but like, really, it's. You know, short of the build piece of it, it just runs and operates on at like the 5 meg scale.
Sure.
Because it's like 4 40-foot containers. But like our place in North Carolina is 15 megawatts, and we have 4 FTEs there.
Linda, your thoughts on this?
Well, I will be very honest, I do not know anything about Bitcoin mining.
Okay.
So if you go out and look at the area, which where they're looking at, you go all the way down south, there's a cul-de-sac there and there's a concrete plant. So when you are standing in that cul-de-sac looking at that concrete plant, they're interested in the lot that is right to the right. It's a 2-acre tract, and that's what they're interested in. Again, this is informal, just so that we can get some information.
Yeah.
But that's just, I can tell you that's where they're looking at, that's the lot that they're looking at. That's zoned I2, so general industry, that's our least restrictive zoning class.
What about real estate taxes? Are there real estate taxes involved in this?
I would imagine that there are real
Yeah.
estate taxes.
There would be, on this, like the 3 sites right now are on Southwestern Electric's lot. So there's a lease that's paid to Southwestern Electric, because and it wasn't really to that the individual buyers or clients, they actually want to buy their land. This is actually a negative for most builders. You'd think like, oh, well, it's a low dollar lease, I don't have to own the land, but then they're like, well, then I'm gonna do all this improvement, I'm gonna spend a lot of money on infrastructure. I mean, just, it's kind of.
Presumably the benefit to them is the amount of money that you're paying in an electric bill.
Correct, correct, and at the
that's
scale
why
that
they
we're
want
at, if we were able to get another 15 megawatts of Southwestern, they start looking at it, because they're a nonprofit, they start looking at buying down the residential rate. I've been trying to do that since we started. That was the original goal. I was like, how big do we need to get to where we start buying down all of our rate?
Right.
And because at the end of the day, it's just what are they taking in versus what they bought from British Petroleum and some of the other suppliers. So if we could get it to where we're buying down the rate, then that would be a benefit to the community, because all of our power rates would lower.
Right.
So it hedges it, because they're able to, Bitcoin mining is 24/7, 365.
Right.
So it is literally, if I'm at 5 megawatts, I am pulling at an average 4.6 megawatt consistently, 24/7, 365. Where you have like a still plant, as an example, may peak to 45, but then they'll come back down during shifts,
Right.
and they'll be down for 18 hours, and then they'll peak back up to 45 when they're smelting. we use cumulatively more than that in this area because we're constant. So it's one of those things where we're kind of flattening the grid, and then when we have peak events, like when it was 100 degrees over the summer, we'll power down and give it back to the grid for they don't have to kick on a peaker plant. So Southwestern has been able to buy a little less because we'll give it back and they don't have to fire their peaker plant up, which they actually sold because it was been consistent the last 20.
Another question that I have on this one is, my understanding is that Bitcoin has gone past its peak, is my understanding of it. Now again, I am by no stretch any kind of expert on this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? And if it is true, then why do you want to?
No, so Bitcoin over the course of to now has grown exponentially, and all you have to look is no further than the approvals of the ETFs this year. So exchange traded funds now, you got BlackRock of the world, you got some of the large financial institutions, the trillion-dollar institutions, now creating essentially funds that people can transfer 401k and those type of things into. Bitcoin is ran decentrally. It's a unique concept from a government standpoint, right? Because essentially a whole bunch of us decide to put together stuff like this, spend a lot of money and contribute to the security model, and for that security model, that's essentially what this is doing, is instead of having like a centralized data center that's owned by a company or a government, it is individual participants that run open source code on machines that were designed to run this particular algorithm that secures the network and allows individuals to be able to transfer money from me to you. So Bitcoin solved what was considered the Byzantine general theorem. In computer science, is if you have think of it like if you had 4 generals attacking a city or something, and you're trying to communicate between each other, was the message trusted or not? What Bitcoin does is allows an individual to transfer a piece of information to somebody else, transmit the code to say, here you can decipher in it, and just from me to you, we can transfer to each other. We don't need a certified third party, we don't need the government to tell us, we can independently verify the information. So when Satoshi, the person that invented it, which nobody knows who it is, it's essentially he dropped a 9-page white paper, like I solved the Byzantine general theorem, here's how you do it. And then literally dipped. Nobody knows where he's at. He has over 1 million Bitcoin that he mines self and has never sold any of it. I don't know, maybe he passed, nobody knows, but all people do know is over those last 13, 14 years now that we've been running it, is it's ran independently and the values went up because it has a limited supply.
Now,
So
I'm an accountant, so I deal with the IRS a lot. And I know that the IRS now, they want to know how many Bitcoins do you have, if you have them. So it isn't completely without government oversight, correct?
Well, correct. So everybody has a fiduciary responsibility that if you have Bitcoin and how did you earn it, to, just like you would have in any financial transaction, if a transaction occurred, do you report it? In Bitcoin, especially at this scale, because you're mining and it's a high cost, like it's going to a custodial service like an exchange like Coinbase or one of those. That's all reported. They have AML, KYC requirements, which you know your customer, anti-money laundering. And this is done at a industry scale. Like, so if you're an individual participant, you could, in theory, mine, never report it, never pay for anything. But at some point, when you go to get that, let's say Bitcoin goes to $1 million a coin, and you're like, okay, I waited, I held long enough, now I'm trying to sell it. The IRS would look at you and go, hey, for those 5 years that you didn't pay for this, like we're gonna fine you because you should have reported it. But so at the end of the day, when you go to exchange it to other capital in some way, you're gonna go through an instrument or a company that is going to report that because they're gonna be regulated to do so. Essentially, they just have to be the better participant. And at some point, because now the financial integration is happening literally in real time right now with the ETFs this year, the next phase, there's already been a bipartisan bill that's made it through the House and the Senate. Biden unfortunately, vetoed it. But the point there to me is that the Congress that can't agree on a lot of stuff has agreed at least to the point to get a bill to the president. That bipartisan bill changes a lot of dynamics that everybody's been waiting point, right?
What about people who do money laundering? I understand that people who do money laundering very often use Bitcoin for money
They
laundering.
can. Yeah, so good money is going to be used by everybody, including the bad criminals. The interesting thing is with Bitcoin is that it's recorded to a levy. There's a company named Chainalysis as an example. It's literally what you would hear their name. They're together an analysis of the blockchain. They tag and flag certain accounts, and when a liquidity center, like an exchange, gets money transferred from somebody, they can breadcrumb it all the way back to its origin. From when it was mined from somebody and transferred, it's gonna pass certain gateways that are known entities, so if it's an exchange or if it's a known wallet, and then at some attribution, essentially it's a transaction that has attribution through its life cycle, right? So at some point, they're gonna get found out. So less criminals are doing it, and this is part of why right now in the current presidential race, there's quite a bit of talk about it, is because larger countries that are under sanctions right now are like, well, if we can't use SWIFT and the banking, we'll just use this other decentralized thing, right? So there was some, concern with that. Well, America has the most Bitcoin mining right now, because in 2021, China did the unthinkable and cut the cords for everybody and said, no, we're gonna stop Bitcoin mining in our country because it was the largest exit of capital out of their country over the Great Firewall of China. So China controls a lot of things because they're a communist country, and they shut down the ability for people to transfer money out of the banking system. So all these folks in China that wanted to move money just made Bitcoin mines, spent their money that they couldn't move out of country, built these things to get Bitcoin and then transfer it out of their country, right? So then China went and cut the power cords, and then America was the benefactor of it. So now we have most of the Bitcoin mining here. 40% of all the Bitcoin mining in the world is in the US. And certain countries, certain states, Wyoming, power producing entities have really embraced it because we can flatten the curves. Illinois is a net positive producer of energy because of a lot of the wind power here. We also have quite a few nuclear plants here, natural gas. Our mix down here is 56% wind. That's per the MISO report, because we have to work with MISO for the curtailment. Having the ability to participate is critical in this, and that's why I built a company around it to help educate folks on it, government, and then just give people the opportunity to be part of it, individual participants. Bitcoin's strength is when individuals can go build their own, and it's not some like mega corp.
So let me, would this area, isn't this pretty close to where we're trying to do our C5 zone?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's pretty far away from 40. I mean, it's, several acres. And again, it is next to, a concrete plant. If this were to go forward, there are probably some things that you could ask, Mr. Carter, is that right, to do. So, I mean, the property will be fenced. We'll maybe ask, you guys might also think about saying, hey, can you maybe put up some trees, bushes, that kind of thing that might perhaps block some noise. Right now, there's nothing out there.
Right.
So.
Right now, there's nothing out there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say that all of our dreams come true, and C5 is a wonderful addition to
Top five, we have machines there too, so you can hear them. We do testing and fixing and stuff. Happy to walk anybody through it.
Fantastic. I'm sure we're going to take you up on that, Michael.
Yep.
So,
Thank
okay,
you.
well, thank you
Yeah,
for
sure.
coming tonight and for bringing a very interesting subject to us, and we'll look forward to further discussions.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Thanks,
we're
guys.
going